Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo, with your host, Patrick Moran.
All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Big thank you to everyone out there, as always, for watching and for listening, for following and subscribing. I appreciate y'all very, very much. If you're watching this on the video side, right off the bat here as we were going live, I didn't even have the graphic up. I'm looking dumbfounded into the screen just as the feed was starting, but that's what happens when you are scrambling here last second. Let me set the stage here for this episode. Whether you happen to be watching this live on the video side, whether you're listening to this on audio or catching this on video on demand, we're going to do a Podbag episode today. This is the episode where you control the narrative, your questions, your comments, your takes. I'm going to read some of them off that I've collected over the last few days, and I'm going to comment, to respond to them. If you happen to be watching this, we're going to do a little bit of an experimentation here with this episode. If you happen to be watching this live, if you want to leave a comment, a question, or a take in the comment section, I will get to those at the end after I read and reply to the ones that I already have. If you are watching this live on the Twitter side and you do want to leave a comment for the show, you're actually going to have to go onto the Talking Buffalo YouTube channel. That's where you could comment and I'll be able to see it. On the Twitter side, you can follow along and watch this live. However, you're not able to comment. So that's what we'll do today. This is primarily all Buffalo Bills stuff. A handful of really good ones. Couple Sabres things too at the end. And that will be the format for today's show. Tomorrow, Bills Seahawks preview, keys to winning, bowl predictions, and a game score prediction. And if you follow the show regularly, you will know that if you listen to my bowl predictions and you've been throwing some money on them, you'd be getting paid because I have been crushing it with my bowl predictions for games. So make sure that you come back and check that out tomorrow. Anyway, as for this episode, before we actually get into the pod bag for today, quick shout out to Mooney's Sports Bar and Grill on Military Road near Sheridan. I literally just 5 minutes ago, before I went live on the air, got back from there. Met up with a couple buddies of mine. A good friend of mine, Jason, lives in California. Grew up together. Whenever we get the chance, he's in town, we get together. My buddy Dan, my guy Tone Pucks, many of you know him from this podcast. We met up there, had a couple beers, some wings. Pretty solid wings, too, at Mooney's. They're known for their mac and cheese, and they're known for their ridiculously big food portions. Like, no matter what you order, shit there is huge. But anyway, got some Carolina Gold wings. Solid, man. Nothing to go crazy over, and that's not really their thing, wings. Again, they're more mac and cheese and other sandwiches, but their wings were very good. A very good time there always is. So I'm literally on the fly just kind of catching my breath. I haven't really looked over many notes. Going to be winging this. As for the Bills, some actual couple news notes real quick. They did return to practice on Wednesday. Juwan Smoot did not practice, groin. Dawson Knox with an ankle. Curtis Samuel with the shoulder. And DaQuan Jones, a veteran rest day. None of those guys practice as well, of course, is the big one to me anyway. Terrel Bernard. But the good news is, so he missed practice with an ankle and also wasn't in the facility for personal reasons. But I would say the good news is Sean McDermott said that it's probably more day-to-day right now. To me, that's very good news. I was concerned after the game and when Sean McDermott was very evasive on Monday with getting an update. I was very concerned that might be a longer term, like week-to-week kind of thing. But hopefully, fingers crossed, it sounds like it could be day-to-day. Hopefully, we'll know more later on Thursday and into Friday. So that's your Bills, like, practice report for getting ready for Seattle on Sunday. As for the Sabres, I got to throw this out there too. A big win on Tuesday night over a very, very good Dallas Stars team, a team that many consider a front runner for the Stanley Cup this year. The Sabres won in their own building 4-2. They are 3-1-1 in their last 5 after starting 0-3. Last week, I lit into them. And in fairness to me, deservedly so, that effort in Columbus was disgusting to me. And I reacted. Simple as that. But they've turned it on. They're playing some pretty good hockey lately. And tell you what, too, that trade that they made, giving up Savoy and getting Ryan McLeod, what a boost he's given him. He's got 4 goals already. This guy's their third-line center. He looks like a number 1 right now. Tage Thompson's already got 5 goals now in 8 games. Owen Powers had 3 assists on Tuesday night, 6 points already on the season, and he looked really good against Dallas on Tuesday. He didn't have 3 assists in a game all of last season. So, again, a good effort on Tuesday from the Sabres. They're back on the ice Saturday at home against Detroit. Only 13,000 or so were in attendance for that game. But to be fair, it's a Tuesday. And again, the team wasn't off to a great start. But it is good to see them starting to turn things around. Again, 3-1-1 in their last 5 after dropping their first 3. Very promising. Anyway, all right, I want to get into this pod bag. Again, these are your questions, your comments, your takes. I went on our YouTube channel, went on our Facebook page, went on my Twitter feed, and I pulled some of the best to discuss on the show today. And if you happen to be following along on the live version of this episode on the YouTube channel, you want to leave a comment for me to get to at the end, you could do that now. And at the end of the show, I'll get to them. All right, let's kick this off here. Kevin says, Groot, Shakir, Benford, Bernard, and Greg Rousseau may all get big extensions. How would you rank the priority for them if you were Brandon Beane and maybe some others? All right, so that's a good question, by the way. Thank you, Kevin. This is going to be, whether it's this offseason or the next, and you would think more this offseason when the contracts come up, Brandon Beane's going to have a lot of work to do starting with this offseason. Not so much this past offseason when it comes to extensions, but certainly going forward now. And by the way, that's, they knocked Spencer Brown off that list already earlier this season. And they're not done that. This list would be even more extensive. But those are some big names and some key players that Kevin listed. And you ask how I would rank them in priority to extend if I were Brandon Beane. That draft class, by the way, that 2022 class, even with Kyle Elam, for the most part, being a bust, and I think it's fair to say that at this point, that's not to say he's a horrible player, but he ain't doing nothing. He's a first-round pick, and he's not even getting into games. To me, if that's not a bust, what is? But anyway, even if you write him off as a bust, which I have at this point, James Cook, Terrel Bernard, Khalil Shakir, Christian Benford, man, what a class. That the downside of that is ultimately this is going to be financially pretty costly for Brandon Beane and the Buffalo Bills. But to prioritize. All right, so if I go through that list and I got first crack, the most important player to me, and this is close, but I think I'm going Christian Benford first. I think at this point, and I didn't think I'd be saying that 6-7 weeks ago, but I'm saying it now. The way Christian Benford is playing right now, he has become a true shutdown corner. And shutdown corners are so hard to find. And he's become one. And when you get one, you don't want to let them go. Rasul Douglas is getting up there in age. And he's also in the last year of his contract. Kyle Elam, he shows flashes in the summer. He looked good in the summer, but I certainly haven't seen enough that I can trust him. And I don't want to see enough to trust him, because if I do, that means that either Benford or Rasul Douglas are hurt. That's the only way he's really going to get on the field, short of blowouts at the end of the game. So, look, you look at comparable contracts. Legionary Sneed from Tennessee, who did not play last week, and he's been kind of lousy with Tennessee, but he's one of the best corners in the league. Got traded, signed a big extension, 4 years, $76 million, $19 million per year, $44 million guaranteed. If that were to be a baseline, and this is for all you out here who are listening to this or watching this, would you give Christian Benford that contract at this point? Puts him in the top 5, 6 paid corners in the NFL? My answer is yes, I would. I think he's worth that money. Again, he has proven to me anyway that he is become a true number one corner. And he's not a household name around the league yet, but I think he's getting there. And if he keeps playing the way he is, those post-season accolades are coming. Pro Bowl for sure. Hell, he might even be in an all-pro conversation. So given, his age, not a lot of these guys are around the same age, but given his age and the position he plays, the importance of it, what you have in that pipeline, I think he would be my first priority. So I'll go Benford first. Second, I would probably go Greg Rousseau, although I have a little bit of reservations about him. That said, he is far and away your best defensive edge player. And if you let him walk, you're basically starting over at that position because there's not a lot in terms of longevity behind Groot. Now, he's the one guy in this list that actually you don't have to sign. They already exercised their fifth-year option, so it's not necessarily urgent that you sign him this offseason. But if you don't, then he's going into a contract year. And if he plays really good, it'll cost you even more money. I kind of think, to some extent, the Bills took that calculated gamble, so to speak, with Spencer Brown recently. They didn't have to sign him, but if they didn't, he could get the free agency and he could end up costing you a couple million a year more. I think they're going to find themselves in that position going forward with Groot. I looked at some player contracts that I thought might be comparable, and Bradley Chubbs came to mind. Averaging about $22 million a year, $35 to $40 million guaranteed. So again, I'll ask you this, listening or watching. Is Groot worth $20 to $24 million a year? If that's what it's going to take to sign him to a long-term extension. Tough decision. I don't envy Brandon Beane when it comes to not so much wanting these guys back, because you want them all back. They're good football players, but you got to consider what they're going to cost and what you might lose because you spent that money on that player as part of this equation. But anyway, he's 2 for me. And by the way, so we're clear, there are 2 priorities. Like if I am Brandon Beane, I am being very aggressive this offseason, and I'm trying to lock up Benford, and I'm trying to lock up Groot right away for sure. I might throw Terrel Bernard in there as well. But I got to admit something. I'm getting a little bit nervous about his durability, his availability. He's getting banged up a lot, and he's a small guy, man. He's what, 220, 225, soaking wet? And he just plays football like he's Mike Singletary. I don't know that his body's built for that. Such a good player. I mean, this defense is night and day when Terrel Bernard is in there as opposed to Balin Spector or Joe Andreessen or whatever they do at Mike linebacker without Terrel Bernard. I'm sorry. He's just a playmaker. He's got a nose for the football. He beats offensive linemen to spots to be able to make plays. He's good in pass coverage. Again, he's a splash player. Just a hell of a football player, man. That game tape against Tennessee was unbelievable, watching him, a handful of the plays that he made. Patrick Queen is a linebacker that got $13 million per year and about $20 million guaranteed. He's a top 5-6 linebacker. So if that were the baseline to sign Terrel Bernard to, say, a 4-year contract, you're talking 4 years, maybe around $52 million, something like that, 20 to 25 guaranteed. Are you doing it? That would be, to me, what the baseline might be. I still lean heavily yes. I don't want to start over at that position, whether it's Bernard with Milano or whether it's Bernard with Dorian Williams. I love the present. I love the future of that position with him. Plus, he's a captain. He's the anchor of this defense now. So I'm trying to sign him as well. Khalil Shakir, this one to me is the tough one because, man, I love Khalil Shakir. Love him. But when you think of this big 4, Benford, Groot, Bernard, Shakir, I feel like he'd be the easiest to replace through the draft or free agency. Not that he'd be easy to replace, because again, I think he is wildly underrated, and we're just starting to see, how good he could be. Um, but he could also be that really good player that hits free agency because you're not going to tag him, and he just gets a huge payday somewhere else, an offer, a contract that you just can't match. And you can't pay everybody huge money. So one of the dilemmas, one of the problems of having a football team that's got ascending young talent, like the Bills got rid of a lot of big name players, leaders, captains, core players over this last offseason, with the idea in mind that guys like Shakir and Bernard and Benford and Groot and a couple others, James Cook, Kincaid, these guys would, they're still ascending players. The problem is, as these players ascend and they start to come up to contracts, it's just not possible to be able to pay them all. So somebody is going to go through the cracks, and they're going to go get paid somewhere else. So if you have to force me to make a decision of those four, the one I would be the most hesitant to resign, I say Khalil Shakir, but only because, again, of the four, I think he would be the easiest to replace. Not that he would be easy. So that would be my pecking order. And then there's others. James Cook. But are you going to give James Cook a big second contract? Probably not. And I know they say running backs generally don't get those big second contracts, but it's also kind of bullshit, because there's always one team out there that's willing to overpay you. And I think with the weapons the Bills have, the way they use their running backs, hey, Ray Davis, he's got 2 years less on his deal. So even if you lose James Cook after 4 years, you're still going to have 2 more years of Ray Davis and whatever else you do at running back. So I'd like to have James Cook back, but I wouldn't consider him a big priority. Amari Cooper, he's 31 years old. You get him, back at the end of the season. If he works out, the chemistry's good. He's not, he's going to get a nice contract in free agency if he keeps playing the way he did. Certainly on Sunday he will. But I don't think at this point of his career, he's really breaking the bank. So if that chemistry's there with Josh, he could be a priority to bring back a 2-3 year contract, maybe a 3 year contract that is relatively easy to get out of after that second year. And I also think that Rousseau Douglas should at least be in consideration. Again, he's 31 years old, but I haven't seen anything this year specifically from Rousseau Douglas that shows me that his best days have, that they're way behind him. So, hey, why not lock up both quarters, right? Again, it's not that I don't like Kyrie Elam. I just, he's going in finishing his third year, and there's nothing about him to show me that he could be a consistent starter. I don't think you just let Rousseau Douglas walk and say, I got Kyrie Elam, he's going to be a starter. Now, if Rousseau Douglas is trying to get $15 to $18 million somewhere else, then you let him go. But if you can work out a deal, Cooper, Rousseau, despite their age, they're definitely guys I could see wanting back. And again, James Cook, I'm not extending him after the season. Let him play out his contract, see how that goes after the fourth year. In the terms of Cooper and Rousseau Douglas, you're extending them, or they're literally going to become free agents this winter. Guess I like that question. It was a fun exercise, man. And I didn't think when I was first asked that I was going to arrive at Christian Benford. And I certainly would not have said him maybe if you asked me this in September. But the way he's looked this season, what he brings to his team, not just even coverage-wise, physicality, just a guy who can take away half of the field, I think he's got to be your first priority. At Miss Chris 378 says, thoughts on DeAndre Hopkins to Kansas City? I don't know what to think. Depends, I guess, on what your expectation is. He ain't Randy Moss going to New England, that's for sure. And he's not even a healthy Rashee Rice either. What Rashee Rice is for Kansas City. He's not that. He's old. He's slowing down. Knee issues. But I ain't going to say he's washed. I would look at it this way. If I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan, I like it. Again, not because I think he's going to be a savior. He's not Randy Moss. He's not Rashee Rice. He's not Amari Cooper. Not Devontae Adams, even though the Jets are sinking. Not at this point of his career. But look at it this way if you're a Chiefs fan. He is a improvement, a big one, over Justin Watson or Sky Moore, which are guys that they need to count on right now. And not to mention Juju Schuster and his bum knees, although he's played really good. That's the thing. Look where he's going. Look at the head coach, Andy Reid. Look at the quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. Whatever DeAndre Hopkins has left, they're going to get it out of him. So if I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm happy. I would have rather had Cooper Kupp. I would have rather had Deontay Johnson. But again, DeAndre Hopkins, if you put your expectations on, well, I want to get a receiver alongside Kelsey and Xavier Worthy and Juju Schuster, whatever. I want a guy who's better than Watson or a guy who I could trust more than Sky Moore. And you can't tell me, I don't give a shit what his age is or what his production was with Tennessee or his knees or any of that. He can still play football, man. DeAndre Hopkins is not no bum. So in that regards, if that's what your expectation is, and I'm a Chiefs fan, I like it. As a Bills content creator, oh, hell, man. As a Bills fan, it doesn't move the needle too much for me. Like, I'm no more worried about playing the Chiefs on November 17th or potentially in the playoffs. I'm no more worried about playing the Chiefs right now than I was yesterday. And that's no disrespect to Hopkins. I just don't think he moves the needle for me all that much. I say that now. He's going to end up having a huge catch in November in Orchard Park. You can almost bet on that. Next one, at News Only 66. I swear the Bills start every game trying to limit how much they have to dip into the playbook on offense and defense instead of just being aggressive right away. Good point, News Only 66. Thank you for that. Look, you're right. In fact, I'd go as far to say that has been the Buffalo Bills' biggest problem this season. 7 games in, far and away, the slow starts have been the Achilles heel of the Buffalo Bills, and they've done it in more than half their games. I mean, they came out and played like shit in the first half at home against Arizona. They played like shit in the first half against Baltimore and never came close to recovering. They played like shit in Houston in the first half, went into the locker room down 17-3, fought back in the second half, but that crappy first half ultimately was too much to overcome. And they played like complete shit for a good quarter and a half this past Sunday against the Tennessee Titans. They were down 10-0. Quite frankly, they were pretty lucky to only be down 3 going into the half. They were lucky to play the Titans last week. Let's just admit that. Yeah, look, the offense can't get going early in games. There's no rhythm. There's no flow. There's not motion. There's no sense of unpredictability. There's no imagination. There's no creativity, it feels like. It's telegraphed. Run up the middle, pass to the outside, low percentage passes early in the game for Josh Allen. Anyway, it just seems to be a common thread. Defensively, Bobby Babbitt has got this team playing basic, vanilla preseason football, basically. First quarter into the first half, actually. They come out, they play nickel, they don't blitz, they don't move guys around, they don't run stunts, they don't run zone blitzes. They basically just line up their front 7, their back 4, and say, all right, we'll bend some, come get us if you can. And other teams are having a lot of success. They're having success running the ball. The Bills' pass rush has been lousy in the first half. They're a very easy team to play on both sides of the ball, it seems like, in the first half. But other than the Ravens game where just things did not go right, they turn it around in the second half, and they look like a completely different team, especially on Sunday. Sunday was fun. Now, granted, the opponent was the Tennessee Titans. I get that. But Sunday was an actual fun game to watch in the second half on both sides of the football. Offensively, don't really need to rehash most of it. I'm sure it's fresh in a lot of your minds. Cooper scores that touchdown. All of a sudden, things are opening up. You're hitting Kincaid on meaningful passes. Khalil Shakir is your chain mover, a bubble screen guy who actually works. Ray Davis is slamming up the middle. James Cook's doing his thing. Keon Coleman, who's becoming a really good player. You didn't know what was coming. It felt unpredictable. It felt more creative. And Josh Allen got into a flow. And some of this is on Josh, too. It's not all Joe Brady in the first half of these games. Josh is pressing and making some bad choices too early in these football games. And then defensively, now granted, again, they got to pin their ears back at some point, but they were mixing it up. They were blitzing. Guys were dropping back. They were doing some stunts, doing some loops. Greg Rousseau was just absolutely abusing a second and third thing or during right tackle. Guys were just making football plays, man. And it was fun to watch this team play. They got to play like that earlier in games because there's a lot of teams left on this schedule that I don't think you can afford to play like you did in the first half. You can't afford to play the Kansas City Chiefs like that. Even though the 49ers are down right now, you can't afford to play against that like the Niners. Hell, man, I think Miami's toast, but they're getting their quarterback back. They'll be in Orchard Park next week, not this weekend. You can't afford to, you can't let them get going. The Bills, Detroit, of course. There's good teams left on this schedule. You got to start better than that. One more question here, and then we'll take a real quick break on the video side, like a 5-second break. And again, if you happen to be watching this live on the video side, if you want me to get to a comment or a question, drop it on the YouTube channel. It's the only way you can be able to do that. And I'll try to get to a couple more bonus ones here at the end. B. Furman says, the first half is McDermott getting involved in the offense. The second half is McDermott getting out of the offensive way. He's the biggest flaw this team has right now. I don't think he's the biggest flaw that they have right now. I do think he's part of the problem, though, at times when they're not playing well. Kind of like, I liken Sean McDermott. I said this earlier on the show. I just think it's a really good analogy. Sean McDermott to me is like a boxer who is obsessed with feeling out his opponents in the early rounds. Like he doesn't want to get aggressive in the early rounds. And there's been some all-time great fighters who approach fights this way. They start out slow. They might even be willing to give you a round, maybe even 2 rounds. They'll pay that price to be able to feel you out, to see what you got on that night. And then they start counter punching, and then they start to get more aggressive and come up with their offensive plan of their own. Usually you wear that boxer out, and ultimately you knock them out, win out points, whatever it may be. Maybe some of you don't agree. Maybe you think that's a terrible analogy, but I think that's what I see from Sean McDermott. He comes out, he wants to feel out other teams. What are they going to show us on defense? What are they going to show us on offense? We're still going to disguise a lot of the things that we're going to do later in games. Again, it's almost like the Bills play the first quarter of these games almost like in preseason mode. It's actually kind of odd to be honest with you. Anyway, I'm going to take a real quick break, come back, get to some more of these and some ones that you left here live on Talking Buffalo. All right, I am back here doing a Podbag episode. This is the episode where you control the narratives, your questions, your comments, your takes that you leave for me. I read them off and I respond to them. Let's keep this going here. At Mikey C991. What trade of Josh Allen has impressed you the most so far this year? Good question. Other than the Houston game, he's not forcing a lot of passes. I didn't look. I don't want to take credit for something that I didn't look. I should say I was looking on Twitter and I saw a stat and it really stuck out to me last year. Josh Allen, so he threw 18 interceptions last year. This year, obviously, he has not thrown any through 7 games. But 10 of those 18 interceptions that he threw last year were balls that were intended for either Stephon Diggs or Gabe Davis. And just memory from watching them, especially early in games, Josh Allen was forcing the ball into them, whether they were open or not, double coverage, tunnel vision on a play. Like he took the ball, he looked, and he was going to Stephon Diggs. He wanted to get him going early, or he wanted to get Gabe Davis going early, and he forced passes. I am seeing, again, other than the Houston game where he was trying to be a hero, don't blame him. Khalil Shakir out, no one else stepping up, really doing anything. Josh took matters into his own hands. It didn't work out, and Josh played pretty lousy. But that game aside, I have not really seen him forcing the issue much. He's doing a much better job of taking whatever the defense is giving him. Running, not so much running, actually, compared to recent years, but just maybe throwing the ball, taking the easier play, and just, accuracy a little bit better, too. He's throwing the ball away a little bit here and there when he's getting flushed from the pocket. Don't get me wrong, you see some of the highlight plays as well, but I think that's the biggest thing. I just, obviously you could say not throwing an interception this year. That, of course, that's the most impressive. But you said trait. And the trait to me is it just doesn't feel like he's forcing the ball this year as much as he has in other years. At Billsy Buffalo says, not sure Matt Milano gets his job back this year. Maybe on clear passing downs as a sub linebacker. I'm going to make this short to the point. If Matt Milano's healthy enough to be active in the play, he's starting. Matt Milano is not going to be a sub package player. Matt Milano is not going to play on the depth chart behind Dorian Williams. That shit is not going to happen, nor should it. And I like Dorian Williams. He's getting better every week. He's improving as he's making less mental errors, as he's becoming more fundamentally sound. The physical abilities have always been there, but now that he's becoming fundamentally sound, he's starting to become little by little, still ways to go, but he's becoming a more complete player. I like him. I like his future. Hell, I'm okay with his present right now. But even if Matt Milano is 85 to 90% of what he was in 2022 and the year before that, dude, he's like arguably was the best linebacker in the NFL, certainly a top 3 to 4 linebacker in the NFL. He is an all-pro linebacker, and he is not going to be a sub, clear passing downs linebacker. That's just not going to happen, nor should it. Keeping Milano going here at Eric J. Darling 92. I think Milano maybe cut this upcoming offseason if they don't rework his contract. Early 30s, back-to-back big injuries, not ideal for the cap hit. All right, look, that's not crazy. That's not a crazy take at all. You're talking about the future now. You're talking about after this season. My last point, so we're clear, I was talking about this season. If he comes back, your boy's playing, as he should. All right, let's get into this offseason. Well, what do the numbers say? Here's what they say. Cutting Matt Milano after this season would cost $17.2 million in dead cap space, and they literally would not save a penny against the cap. So I'm talking about a traditional cut. Like if they cut him, season's over, gets to February before free agency, and they cut ties with Matt Milano, like say they did with Mitch Morse. And that's the cut. You're just eating a shitload of dead money, and you're not saving any. So that is really not even in play. Now, post June 1st, different story. $6.2 million in dead cap money. You're going to eat that, even if you wait to, a post June 1st designation. But you're going to save 9.994. So basically $10 million. Just round that shit off, $10 million. You're going to eat 6. You're going to save 10. Now, I'm not going to say that's impossible. Hell, they just did it last year, literally with Trey White. They cut Trey White. There were no cap savings to cut him early. They designated a post June 1st. And they saved money. They could not spend the money until after June 1st. Didn't really do much with that. But I get what they were doing and why they did. Help sign the draft picks, stuff like even a small trade, financially anyway, with Mari Cooper, stuff like that. So there are possibilities that it could happen. I mean, he does turn 31 years old right around camp next year. You're not wrong about 2 major injuries. Although this injury, I think once it heals, I think he'll be fine. I'd be much more concerned if it was a lower injury, like if he tore his ACL, again, like last year was the broken leg, this year, the shoulder. Like if he had an Achilles and then he tore his ACL, like say Trey White did 2 times in 3 years, I'd be much more, I would anticipate that much more. I don't anticipate Matt Milano getting cut this offseason. The scenario where I could see it is if Dorian Williams just continues to grow and grow and grow at a pace where you're like, this guy's just straight up too good to be a bench guy. We got him on a cheap rookie contract. We could save $10 million cutting Matt Milano next year. Maybe. I'm not saying it won't happen. I wouldn't bet on it, but you can bet on this much. If they do cut him, it would be post June 1st. At Philip Gibson, 90-91. It seems Keon Coleman became guarded with the press. He doesn't joke around and show his personality like he did early on. He is learning on the fly and gaining Josh's trust. I'm looking forward to what he does every week through the rest of the year. I wouldn't read too much into that, him being a little more serious with the media. I think it's a more business approach during the season for most, close to all the players. Like, they're not funny games this time of year. It's about business. It's about the next opponent. They're in regular season mode as opposed to OTAs and, mini camp, even training camp. Training camp, it's hard work, but it's also fun. Summertime. So different mindset. I don't think it's really any different for him than it is most players. I wouldn't read anything into that. And yeah, man, I'm looking forward to seeing him grow too. I'll tell you this. In fact, I said on yesterday's show, I'm very impressed with Keon Coleman. Like, surprisingly impressed. Not that I didn't think he was going to be a good player. I didn't think he was going to be a good player this quick. I'm at the point right now where I'm almost ready to push back the goalposts with him. That's what I said yesterday. Like, my expectation for him was to be a guy who would come in and give you a handful of plays throughout the season. In fact, I thought Matt Collins was going to actually outproduce him. I said this, I'll own it, before the season started. I said, like, Matt Collins or MVS, those are going to be guys who produce more. Keon will do a little bit here and there. Now I'm at a point where there's no logic, no reason why Keon Coleman is not your Gabe Davis at this point. Not to compare styles, just like I won't compare a style between Cooper and Diggs. But if you're looking at production and roles on this football team right now, I think going forward, especially maybe in a couple weeks, when he gets a little bit better grasp of more to plays and things like that, I think Cooper's now your Stephon Diggs. And I think Keon Coleman is now your Gabe Davis, that outside guy, shoulder catches, down the field plays, runs after catch, things like that. He's your number 2 boundary guy right now. It's not Matt Collins. MVS ain't even on this team. Who the hell knows what the hell's going on with Curtis Samuel? So I think Keon Coleman is your second boundary guy. Khalil Shakir different. I got him. It's my slot guy right now, which I love that, by the way. But my point is my expectations now have grown with Keon Coleman. I expect him to go out and get 2, 3, 4 catches for 40 to 75, 80 yards a game. And it's credit to him. Because again, I think he's exceeded my personal rookie expectations. To this point, a handful more here, Bill stuff. Alex Collins says, Damar Hamlin got a lucky pick where he was in the right place at the right time. Outside of that, he was not good on Sunday. He won't lose his job because they were obsessed with him starting, but just stop with he played good today. He didn't. If you follow me on Twitter, if you watch or listen to this show regularly, I am not a Damar Hamlin fan. I don't think he should be starting. I think Mike Edwards should be starting, assuming he's healthy. Hell, I would have Cole Bishop starting. No, you know what? I take that back. I lied. I would not have Cole Bishop starting. Not right now. You don't throw a rookie into the mix when you got a good team. You're 5-2. I get why they want to start Damar Hamlin. I do. I really do. Anyway, I'm not high on him. I don't think he's a very good player either. But I thought he played good against Tennessee. I gave him his credit. I gave him his props as due. I thought he played pretty good. The interception to me was like the least impactful play he made. It wasn't because of him. It's because of Christian Benford. And I get it. And I know a lot of people are talking shit. I saw some memes going around on Twitter on Wednesday that Damar Hamlin has as many interceptions this year as Sauce Gardner has in his career too. Let's relax on the interceptions. What a bullshit overrated stat, I should say, that could be. Look at his 2 interceptions. One was Trevor Lawrence airmailing a ball 10 yards over Brian Thomas Jr.'s head. And then the other one was this Sunday where Christian Benford made the pass break up, knocked the ball in the air, and Damar Hamlin just happened to be there. Good positioning, by Damar. But anyway, my point is, look, I'm not high on Damar Hamlin, but I don't agree with you. I don't think he sucked on Sunday. I thought he actually played pretty well. Sticking with this, Brandon Trinkle says, I still think they need an upgrade at safety. And I'll just reply to you with what I tweeted on Wednesday. I'll make it real short and to the point. I still think Micah Hyde is going to be a Buffalo Bill. And I still think he's going to sign sometime between now and we'll say the NFL trade deadline, which is not that he has to sign by the 5th, but I'm going to say sometime by like November 5th. Sometime between now and early November, maybe the practice squad for a week or 2 to ramp up. I think Micah Hyde is still going to play for the Bills this year. I think ultimately at the end of the day, Sean McDermott wants that safety, that free safety that he can completely trust. For now, it's DeMar Hamlin. Mike Edwards is not even active. That's a numbers game, though. But I still think that Micah Hyde is going to ultimately, near the end of the season, Micah Hyde is going to be the free safety. That's just my opinion. Maybe it's just more than my opinion. We'll see. At the Dragon Chaser, the complete disappearance of Dawson Knox is criminal. All he did into the season is produce. You know, let me say this about Dawson Knox, and this is no fault of his, okay? What role should Dawson Knox have on this football team right now? Because you could go around and talk about a lot of guys who want to eat more. There's only one football. Look at all the things right now that the Bills have an investment in. They got Amari Cooper. He's your number one. You got Keon Coleman. He's your first draft pick. He's your number 2 right now receiver, your boundary guy. You got Cooper, you got Coleman. You got Khalil Shakir working the slot, screen passes, yards after catch, seam plays. He's your slot guy and a goddamn good one. I've said it a million times. He's Cole Beasley with more juice. Then you got Dalton Kincaid, your number 1 tight end. You need to get him involved. And he had a really good game against Tennessee, by the way. 3 catches for 52 yards. Stat line don't blow you away. But he was good. 2 of those 3 catches, big catches, meaningful catches too, not little safety valve dump-offs. So I just don't get it. Like, what's your expectation for Dawson Knox? Because if it's what it was a couple years ago, where he caught 48 balls one year, 49 balls the other, it's not, unless there's an injury to Kincaid, it's not going to happen. So you say the disappearance is criminal. No, it's not. There's a pecking order on this team now, as there should be. There's a pecking order. And Dawson Knox, and I like Dawson Knox, by the way. I mean, it's not his fault he's got a bad contract. Good for him, man. I'm glad your boy got paid. He's not a bad player. Hell of a depth guy to have. And something happens to Kincaid. If you need a red zone play, there's things Dalton Kincaid could do. He's going to have a couple big moments. But that should be your expectation for him. That should be his role. He's going to give you a little something here, a little something there. Hopefully it's in a big moment and he comes through. But that should be what your expectation is. To have him, thinking he's going to be catching 5-6 balls a game, that's just, to me, that's crazy. That's just unrealistic. And again, the bad contract, get used to it because he ain't going anywhere until 2026 the way that contract is. At Jason_M says, Taylor Rapp, is starting to make me not miss Poyer, especially as we see his arc in Miami, but Hamlin does make me miss Hyde. I already talked about Micah Hyde just a minute ago. I agree about Hap. Still think he's a little mistake prone, makes me a little nervous about that, but yeah, man, he's played really well the last 2 games. He saved the Jets game. The Bills don't beat the Jets without Taylor Rapp. That's the truth, too. And I love Jordan Poyer, but yeah, I've watched some Miami film, and he's washed up. He is. I hate to say it because I love me some Jordan Poyer. I will die on the hill of thinking he should be on the Bills Wall of Fame someday, if there even is a Wall of Fame. I forgot if there even is one with the new stadium. Regardless of that, he's an all-time Bill guy to me. A leader, a warrior. Loved him. He was a great football player for the Buffalo Bills, but that tank is almost empty. Now, maybe it's because he's playing with a bunch of losers. That's what they are in Miami. A bunch of no-heart losers who care about the sun and the nightlife more than being football players. With a coach, with a weirdo head coach that I think sucks. Most overrated coach in the entire NFL. Just they fold. And look, you can tell me that's hater talk. Maybe it is, but it's also backed in some facts. This team just folds like tents when they play good teams. They don't overcome any adversity, no leadership, blah, blah, blah. I keep going on. My point is, Jordan Poyer got cut by the Bills, wanted to go home, got himself one more payday, and it's just not much left. I would much rather have Taylor Rapp at this point, too. At Mazvids, I'm going to say this. As far as AFC East is concerned, the jokes, meaning the Jets, and the LOL Fins, meaning the Dolphins, that's funny, look like they are closer to being tear-down rebuild candidates than they do contenders anytime soon. I'll go as far as to say that after this season, The Patriots will probably be closer to contenders for the East than either of those teams. I think Drake might be the franchise quarterback, and in a year or two might be pretty good. Miami and the Jets do not have a quarterback. Yeah, look, I agree with that, man. Miami and the Jets are in bad shape. They're in bad shape right now, and I think they're in bad shape too for the foreseeable future. Now, I will say, in the NFL, we see it every year. One offseason can transform a team from being scrubs into contenders. But as things stand right now, I mean, you got the New York Jets, a lot of high-priced talent, and they certainly look like they're going to be starting over at quarterback next year. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is physically breaking down. I think he's got like 9 things wrong with him right now. He probably doesn't last this year. So I think this is the end of the road for him. They're probably going to be looking for a new coach as well. Miami, they just, Tua's Tua. I don't want to see him get hurt again. That would suck, but who knows? But even besides him, they got too much money tied into a few players. Good players, but players that aren't helping them win enough games. Lots of holes on that team. And I just said it. I do not like Mike McDaniel. At Carl Binger, LMHC. Lamar Jackson is really, really good. Yes, he is. It's time to acknowledge that he may be better than Josh Allen. At the very least, he is more consistent. It's very fair to have that debate. Look, 2 MVPs is 2 MVPs, man, and he's right there in line right now for a third. If the season ended today, I think Lamar Jackson wins MVP. And if he doesn't, I think Jared Goff is there. I think Josh Allen's third right now in the race. But, flip side, it also stinks, or I shouldn't say it, Lamar is also stunk in the playoffs, man. He's 2-4 in the playoffs. 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, multiple opportunities. That has to count. That could change the narrative. I think that's why people, Pat Mahomes, I think universally is considered the best quarterback, but Burrow has had playoff success. He's been to a Super Bowl. Josh has only been to one conference championship game, but he's played a lot better in the playoffs than Lamar Jackson has. So I think Lamar's got to play good in the playoffs. And if he does that, he'll go down as one of the all-time greats. He's certainly, though, look, you can't go wrong with either guy. If I'm a fan of whatever team it is, I'm happy with Josh Allen. I'm happy with Lamar Jackson for different reasons. At G School 89, nothing about the MVP discourse is fun. It's become annoying and dumb when it gets talked about in September and October. I agree, man. I'm guilty of it, though, because I brought up the Lamar shit after he went off for 5 touchdowns and 333 yards on Monday Night Football. But yeah, I agree. It's like the stock market, man. It changes weekly, if not daily. Like right now, I just said Josh Allen's probably third. He might be the MVP front runner after this game. It takes one game, one good game, one bad game. Stock goes way up. Couple more here. That's it for the Bills stuff. Actually, it won't be it because I do got a couple comments to get to at the very end here, which we're almost there. MJ Vic 5. This is a Sabres one. The Sabres have stunk through most of drought. This year, it just feels like an enigma. I don't know why or what to think. Why does this team feel so weird? Well, they're really good on 5-on-5, but they're awful on special teams. And unfortunately, special teams is a very big part of hockey. Special teams from time to time is an important part of a football game. Special teams in hockey is almost always important, and the Sabres are dreadful. They haven't scored a goal this year on the power play. They're dead last in the power play, and they're 23rd in penalty kill. So they suck on special teams. The goaltending has been inconsistent. Both players, UPL and Devin Levi, they've had good moments. They've had a couple stinkers already. So really inconsistent goalie play. But there's plenty to like. Tate Thompson's got 5 goals already. He's back. He didn't look right last year. He looks like he did 2 years ago right now. Alex Tuck's already got 9 points. Talked about Owen Power earlier at the top of the show. He looks great. That Ryan McLeod, that looks like a trade highway robbery, giving up Savoy to Edmonton and getting Ryan McLeod. This guy's a third-line center. He looks like a top 6 guy to me. What a hell of a hockey player he's been for the Sabres so far. But, again, you said weird and enigma. You're right. Because conversely, Dylan Cousins has not scored this year. In fact, I made a joke, but it might not be a joke. I might do it for real. Starting on Saturday, that when they play Detroit Saturday afternoon, I said that if I'm not shaving again if Dylan Cousins scores. Then I'm like, yo, I might not be able to shave for a couple more weeks the way this guy's playing. But yeah, it's just your second line center, 8 games in. He doesn't have a goal yet. She's only got 1 assist on the year. Rasmus Dahlin looks a little bit off. Zach Benson's been he's been fighting an ankle injury, so I don't want to comment too much on him. It didn't look right out there, but that makes sense. Jack Quinn just doesn't look ready right now. I don't know why, but he doesn't. 2 years ago, he looked great. Doesn't look ready right now. So yeah, a big enigma. Quick question here, not sports too. I like this. AJ says, best season of The Office. Look, it can't be anything other than season 2. That's where you start to get to know the characters well, because season 1 was only 6 episodes. But you get to know the cast a lot better, the dynamics of them. The Jim and Pam dynamic really grows and grows that season. I think you got peak Michael Scott. So for me, it's actually easy. I didn't have to think hard on this. Season 2, runner-up, season 4, just because of a handful of episodes, man. You got the dinner party to me is still my singular favorite episode. And if you're a fan of The Office, that is like there's no in between. People either loved dinner party or they hated it. No in between. I loved it. Toby leaves at the end. Michael's so excited. They do a party for Toby leaving when he sings Goodbye, Toby. That song's awesome. You got Ryan's rise and fall of being the boss. The fun run, the 2-parter to start the season, that shit was really good too. Last one, and then I'm going to try to look up a couple comments that you guys have been leaving throughout the show. At Calicorn9 says, why do you hate Halloween so much? I hate Halloween because it is a holiday that was made for kids that adults slowly through the years have just completely hijacked. Now, maybe my memory is a little jaded from being a kid because I'm so old. It was so many years ago, but I don't remember all these adult parties everywhere. I remember my parents getting me a costume and taking me out fucking trick-or-treating and getting some candy. Now, I remember kids' parties, dunking for apples, stuff like that, where kids went to parties dressed up in costumes. I remember that. You know what I don't remember? I don't remember my mother getting dressed up for Halloween. I don't going to parties and going to bars and getting shit-faced. I don't remember my Aunt Ann doing that shit. I don't remember my Uncle George getting in some costumes and going to parties, dressing up as a pirate to go to work. You know why? Because it was a kid's holiday. That's why. There's parents out there right now who have kids. Now, if you're a single dude, you're in your 20s, or a single girl in your 20s or in 30s, whatever, you ain't got no kids, you ain't got really nothing going on. I get it, man. You want to dress up, you want to go buy the slutty cop, costume, you want to go buy the jailbird guy, whatever you want to be, you go to the parties and get drunk, fine. I get that to an extent. But there's a lot of people out there, man, there's a lot of parents out there right now that got kids, and they put more effort into their own costume and more effort into finding their own parties to go to than their kids enjoying Halloween. Like, their kids are an afterthought in their Halloween experience. Drives me absolutely batshit crazy. All right, that's it for the questions that I got. Let me sift through a couple of these. Now, some of these comments were made earlier in the show, so they might be responses to things I said. John Sanders says, not seeing Elam on the field is frustrating. Well, no, it's not. I disagree with you respectfully, buddy. I disagree because Christian Benford and Rousseau Douglas are the best 2 quarters on this football team. And if you see Elam on the field, that means one of them got hurt. And I don't know about you, but I don't have any confidence whatsoever that Kyrie Elam is going to come in there and be as good as Rousseau Douglas, or especially Christian Benford. Now, maybe in years past, if Dane Jackson was the other, option, or if it was Levi Wallace as your option, sure. Those are kind of like, high floor, low ceiling type guys. And sure, I'd like to see some Kyrie Elam out there. But the Bills have one of the better corner tandems in the NFL. So I am in absolutely no rush to see that. Dan said, all right, I'd hate like how to see Shakir change uniforms. He's at his best on game day, and his offseason work with molds proves his intent. Look, great point. This is in reference earlier in the show where I was asked, to prioritize 4 very good players on giving them extensions. I would gladly give all 4 of them extensions. I don't want any of them to leave. But if you have to have somebody's got to be last on the priority list. It's just the way it goes. So by process of, elimination, it became Khalil Shakir. But make no mistake about it, I absolutely do not want him gone in any way, shape, or form. Colleen says, was there talk of Khalil leaving? Colleen, no. This was earlier in the episode. I was given Bernard, Benford, Groot, and Khalil Shakir, and I was asked to power rank, if I were Brandon Beane, the order in which I would extend them. What would my priority be? And like I just said, I want all 4 back, but I was forced to have to make somebody last. So based on that, I said Khalil Shakir. Let's see if there's any more here. Winding down. John says, Bills last year were at their worst offensively when Knox was out. Coincidence? Oh, good point. I don't know. Tooch says, agreed, Pat. If you dress up and you're older than 11, you're a loser. The stoner teenagers that work at Taco Bell can eat that, leave the candy for the kids. Yeah, man. Look, it's a kid's holiday. At least that's what I remember it. I know I'm an old guy yelling at the lawn. Get off my lawn. Halloween's a goddamn kid's holiday. Dress your kids up. Take your kids out trick-or-treating. You ain't got no kids. You got a little cousin. You got a little nephew. Make them your priority. Don't cast them off to the side because you want to buy a slutty costume, because you want to play cop for a day, because you want to play a doctor for a day. You want to be a priest, whatever the hell it is that you're trying to be, and go to your friend's Halloween party. That's stupid. It's stupid, especially if you got kids. Again, if you're single, I guess I'll accept that. But if you got kids and you're throwing them up in some scrubby little league uniform that they wore 3 years ago because you spent your money on a Halloween costume and you didn't get them shit, then yes, you are a piece of shit and you're a loser. Anyway, up against time here. Almost went a full hour. Gonna end this. This was fun doing this live. Like I said, I really didn't have time to prepare and think on some of these questions. I quite literally came back from Mooney's, set up the camera, looked at the questions and said, all right, we got to go here. But this was fun, man. I do appreciate everybody who's been watching this live. And again, of course, you can listen to this or watch it anytime. One last thing, if you are watching this on the video side and you haven't done so already, please, please, please press pause, or right after, remember to do this. Go on Spotify or Apple, whichever one you prefer, any audio podcasting platform. Look up Talking Buffalo and just hit that follow button. It takes you about 5 seconds to do that. Really helps us grow on the audio side, which is a big goal of ours. Plus, the audio side is the only place where you're guaranteed to get every single episode in its entirety. YouTube stuff, we're going to do some exclusive things on YouTube that you'll only get on YouTube, but not every full-length episode is going to be on YouTube. You can only have that if you're subscribed on the audio side. So on that note, again, one more time, thank you very much. I'll be back. PK from Buffalo Sports Collective joins me tomorrow. A Bills Seahawks preview and bowl predictions. Talk to you then.